Hello, everybody. Let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about the research that's going on here on my research team and what we're doing here at Seattle Pacific University. My research has really begun by focusing on three major areas. I've done a lot of work over the years on leadership development with a strong focus on the job development, where over 80% of a leader's learning occurs in on-the-job trial-by-fire experiences, and a lot of my work has focused on how do they capture those experiences so they emerge on the other side as a better leader. More recently, I've been doing more work on change management and helping organizations adapt and people adapt through change. And then finally, over the last year, you'll see we've been doing some work on how to make a person's job more meaningful, the key elements of it to make it more engaging, but also important work as well. Within this core, my research team members really go out and create their own special research agendas around their dissertations and areas that they're particularly interested in. So we have some work going on around psychological well-being at work and what are the critical elements in terms of core needs that people have and how they can be expressed and how work can support a sense of purpose, a sense of growth, a sense of achievement, and what factors lead to that. Secondly, we've been doing some work around storytelling. And once you identify those things, how can you help people, even in what look like monotonous jobs? How do you help them understand their work as more meaningful and how they're helping other people? Third, we have some really interesting work going on looking at annual reports to see if they can identify elements of toxic leadership, which predict things like lower financial performance and maybe indicating that fraud could occur later in an organization's history. So we're doing some qualitative analysis on those annual reports to see if there are any words or cues that predict those behaviors later on. Next, I have a student who's working on personality and employee engagement. And are there some personality dimensions that just make people more engaged? So you can give them almost anything to do, and they will make it exciting work. I have another student who's just finishing up and looking at shared leadership among NBA teams and the extent to which you adopt a shared or one person in the team is more important than the others, and should that impact your extent to whether you buy or develop players on teams? That's a really interesting one going on. We're having some new findings bubble up that have implications for shared leadership, but might even have some implications for how NBA teams can be more effective. Finally, we have one of my students who's looking at the extent to which people, if you tell them and cue them to identify a very specific set of future work selves, places they could be, does that increase their sense of resilience and ability to be resilient later on? I thought it might be helpful for you to also know what's happened most recently to some of the people who have gotten their PhDs on the Yost research team. We have Mackenzie, who went to Avanade and is doing some consulting. Emily went to Columbia, where she managed their employee engagement work. Faye is at Nordstrom. She's had a couple of promotions now, focusing on data analytics in the company. Nicole just started with Blue Origin a couple of months ago. She is a data analyst there, specifically looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. issues and metrics. Eric, who's from the Midwest, has landed back in the Midwest, where he's doing organizational development and change management work at an insurance company there. And then finally, Kate is working doing employee and leadership development through an organization called Life Labs Learning. I thought I might just end with just talking a little bit about me. My background before I became a full-time professor was largely in industry, where I worked at Geico Insurance while I was in graduate school, Boeing for 9 years, and then Microsoft for a couple of years. My work included elements of building selection systems. I did a lot of work on supervisory and leadership training. Also leadership development, so going outside the classroom and how you put together succession management programs and some other work around on-the-job development, especially when I was at Boeing, but also some assessment work on senior leaders when I was at Microsoft. I managed the employee surveys when I was at Boeing, and as I said later on, I did a lot of work on change management, some ideas around the future of HR when I was at Microsoft. And then much of my consulting since then has been around change management. And recently I've written a lot more and done a lot more deeper thinking about how to build resilience and agility, not only to individuals, but into teams and organizations. And that's been really interesting work and great work that I've been able to partner with our students in our program. Hope that helps, and hope we get a chance to talk more, and I can tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing. Thanks.